Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And I'm up in my office again. I got brown hair, brown eyes. I got my headset on. I've got a shirt that Dustin made called Make Space for Others. And want to mix it up just a little bit. You notice I added Moderna to my pronouns. I have had my first shot. I've got another shot coming up in 2 weeks now. And, it's a personal choice and all of that, but we got to get vaccinated. We got to do something to get this going. So just want to give a shout out to vaccines, but that's not why we're here. Why we're here is our great friend, Mr. Jesse Flores. How you doing?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. What you been up to today?
Oh, man. What have I been up to? Same thing that I do most every day, man. Sell and manage.
You run a pretty tight, disciplined schedule. I mean, like one of the people the most disciplined person I know, I think.
Well, I don't know, man. I try. I'll say that. I try. I try to be pretty, here's my thought on this is that, everyone always talks about, I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough money, I don't have enough this or enough that, right? And, everyone talks about wanting to make more money or whatever. And I think that the real limiting resource is time, right? You don't know how much you've got. You can never make more. And once it's gone, it's gone. So I feel like if you're going to manage anything closely, that's the thing. And then the rest of it works itself out.
Yeah, I like that philosophy because you can't buy, you sell your future to debt. People don't think about that. They just think it's money, but it's really your time that you're selling. So yeah. I like it. Hey, let's jump into you before we get into all your philosophy. Tell us about you. Where were you born and raised? Where'd you go to school? What you been doing before SuperWebPros?
Man, I've been all over. I like to, I think this is career number 4 for me, maybe, right? Born and raised in Texas, outside of Houston, and then went to school. My undergrad at Notre Dame. My undergrad, my first master's at Notre Dame. Then jumped over to Dallas, was a Catholic school teacher for 2 years. Hopped over to Atlanta. I had a pretty successful corporate career for a number of years. Did my MBA there at Emory University. Then I jumped ship and tried to be a tech entrepreneur, which went well till it didn't, as these things sometimes go. And then through God's sense of humor, I ended up north of the Mason-Dixon again, after I swore I never would be north of the Mason-Dixon. And I came to Lansing about 7 years ago, I guess, no, 6 years ago at this point. And, at that point, my software startup was not so much starting as it was puttering. And so I had taken that team and I turned it into a software development company. So we were building custom web apps for predominantly venture and angel-backed companies at the time. And then a couple of years into that, I said, let's do something a little bit different. Let's take what we've learned with software development and DevOps, and let's pivot into websites. One, because I knew that we could get some massive productivity benefits from using those tools in this industry, but also serve a lot more people. And so about three and a half years ago, I closed down Cognite Labs and popped open SuperWebPros. I mean, I've been a teacher, I've been a corporate guy, I've been a tech entrepreneur, and now I'm just a local business owner.
Are you glad you're not a teacher right now?
In some ways, yes and no. So, I actually, this is a whole other topic. I actually think that right now is a great time to be a teacher for a variety of reasons. One of which is there are so many interesting, I think, shifts in education right now that if you're like an entrepreneurial teacher, there is, I think, a lot of really cool problems to solve and things to be working on. One of the other things too is that, in the knowledge economy, one of the things I see a lot in our industry is a lot of people trying to build second and third income streams, selling info products. And you see a lot of companies like Kajabi or Thinkific that are selling platforms for people to build courses online. And if I were a teacher today, I'd be thinking, man, like this is the perfect time to actually monetize that education, because there are a lot of people trying to create courses, trying to sell information and knowledge who don't have the same training that teachers do. I think now would be a great time as a teacher to be figuring out how to leverage a skill set that is on the upward, gaining a lot of momentum and trying to figure out how to monetize that in some really interesting ways. So yeah, that's my take on it.
See, I should have known your answer. You present an entrepreneur with a problem and they're like, hell no, that's where I want to be, right in the middle of the problem.
Well,
so
it's actually on my list of projects to get to at some point is exactly this, trying to build a not a big business, but I'll call it adding a vein, if you will, to help teachers be able to transition their skills. One of the challenges is like teachers, as people talk all the time, teachers don't get paid nearly enough, and the way that we pay teachers and the way that teachers are I'll say monetized in the labor markets is it's not based on like any kind of profitable return on investment. And what's sad is that their skill set is so valuable in the knowledge economy. And so one of my goals when I can get around to it is to try and help teachers figure out how to leverage their skill set to be able to have the living that I think that they deserve. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, though.
So let's jump into SuperWebPros. First of all,
Sure.
like, what's your website if someone wanted to check it out?
It's SuperWebPros.com. So we're aptly named, and the website's aptly named. Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
Well, tell us what you do, maybe, and what how you differ from my nephew who wants to build my website.
Depending on who you are, we might not differ that much. Depending on your nephew, might be actually the kind of person we want to work with. I don't know. Let me know. Yeah. So we build and maintain websites for growing companies, and and I'd say that's kind of the 10-second version. I'll give you a little bit of our why, and that might then flesh out exactly what we do if that's helpful for you.
Yes.
We talk about a lot in this country. We talk about income inequality gap, and there's another gap that is, I think, just as, if maybe not more important, and that is what I would call the technical inequality gap. Before I moved to Lansing, I was in Atlanta, and one of my mentors there in Atlanta had sold his marketing automation company at that point, which was 7 years old. He sold it for $100 million in cash to a company that was then later acquired by Salesforce.com. And I remember within a few months of being in Lansing that I was talking with a business owner, and at this time we weren't doing anything related to websites. It was all custom software. And I was asking them about how they were using marketing automation in order to move people through their sales process and ultimately be able to make their marketing much more profitable, if but for no other way, like driving down the cost of managing a bunch of stuff that people were managing manually before marketing automation, if they were doing it at all. And he had no idea what I was talking about. And I remember kind of thinking to myself, like, man, in one part of the country, there are people making billions of dollars on software, buying and selling companies in this universe that this large swath of the country's never heard of, because that guy wasn't unique. I still talk to business owners every day who have no idea what the web can do for them. Yet large companies are using tools like figuring how to build efficient sales funnels, efficient marketing automation, conversion optimized websites, all these things which allow them to grow and grow faster. Another great example you see in local markets is like companies like Angie's List or Thumbtack, which gobble up the top of all search engine optimization results for almost every single local company, because what these aggregators have is a much better understanding of how the internet works and how the web works. And so goal of SuperWebPros, we talk about building websites, but really the goal is to help try and level that playing field for the smaller and local businesses who have no idea what they're up against. And we're just trying to figure out if we can do a little bit to level that playing field. Websites are one way that we do it, but there's others too.
So I want to put a question on the screen from Mona David. She listens to my show every day, and I love it. Mona, thank you. But she wants to know, how long does it take you to get a website up and running for a customer?
Mona, that's a great question. It's one that I get asked every single day, and the short answer is it depends, which is the answer nobody wants.
Yeah.
So I'll say this. In general, we can get a website up within a couple of weeks. Sometimes it takes much, much longer. The bottleneck is almost always is almost always how much content the customer has, and how well structured their approach is. Now, we do a lot to try and put customers, Jerry talked about me being disciplined with my time, and we're disciplined with our operation too. So we do a lot of work to try and make sure that we're leading customers down a path that allows them to get the things that they need to us quickly so we can get them done. The fastest path, honestly, we've pre-built hundreds of websites. So for a customer, so somebody who's just starting out, doesn't really know a whole lot about what they need, doesn't have a lot of marketing collateral, I almost always say, look, pick one of our pre-built websites, let us fill in the information for you, and we'll get that turned around within a couple of weeks. Another company like Playmakers, for instance, is one of our awesome partners. It takes a lot longer. There's a lot more complexity for someone like them. And when we brought them online for e-commerce, that took several months. So it really depends.
Yeah. So you're always going to get that answer, Mona. That you got to get the scope down before you get the time down.
I'll say this: we try and work at the pace of our customers. So if you're working quickly, our turnarounds, we try to get things, projects started within 3 to 5 days, get feedback implemented within 2 to 4 days. We try to move very quickly. We know that time is the most valuable asset, and we try to make sure that we're never the bottleneck. How about that?
Yeah, like it a lot. So I want to talk a little bit about inbound marketing, but before we get there, is there anything like with SuperWebPros, like I watched you pivot or watched you change companies. I was sneaking in your office all the time over at the Tick, usually trying to see how much Bombay Sapphire you had left. But what is there anything special like about your business model? How are you different than Wix or Squarespace or whatever?
Yeah, great question. So I'll say the principal difference between Wix and Squarespace is a do-it-yourself versus done-for-you service. So Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, all those services, you're going to have to do it yourself. And I'll be honest, for most companies that are just starting out, I tell them categorically do that. If you're just starting out and you're under the illusion that a website's going to put you on the map, you're wrong. Like, don't waste your time trying to get the perfect website. If you're just starting out as a new business, go pay $9 a month to Wix and Weebly, get a template, throw in your logo, put in some stuff, because you don't know who your customer is. You don't know what your value is at the marketplace. It's not a good use of your, at the beginning of a company, your money is more valuable than your time. Don't waste your money working with someone like us to get yourself started. Take a little bit of time, get a basic thing up and running, and then go from there. So maybe that's one difference, right? Is that I almost.
Are you saying that because you want them to validate their business before they're out there with the big fancy website? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. And I think of businesses going through a couple of different stages, and maybe we'll come to this, maybe we won't. But the first stage of your business, which I think is anybody making less than $100,000 in their business in a year, you don't know what your business is. You're still trying to figure out what your business is. And so you don't need to spend a lot of time trying to do things like get your branding right or your logo right or your market right. You need to figure out who do you want to serve. You need to go out and just serve people. And as you serve people, you'll find out that you're charging too little or you're charging too much, or you like working with this person and not that person. The first, I'll call it 0 to 100. And again, it can vary based on business or whatever, but that first leg of your business is really validation. And validation is, I don't know that it ever stops. At some level, as you try new markets, you're still validating the market, but that first leg of your business is not about branding, it's not about marketing, it's not about scale, it's about service. And as you start to figure that out, then you can do the next stage, which I think is selling. At that point, you've served enough people, you know who you like to serve, you know where there's a pretty good fit, then you need to figure out how to replicate and serve more of that kind of person. For us, for instance, a local business, we have kind of two agencies, and local businesses are probably our two big ones. And it took some time for us to realize, okay, this kind of local business is the kind of business that's a good fit for us, right? And we're a good fit for them. And then the third stage after that is when you start to worry about building systems, and then you can scale. I myself, having come from the tech world, we always talk scale. And I think some of that has seeped into kind of the more run-of-the-mill entrepreneur. If you're not building software, you don't need to focus on scalability. That comes after you've got systems. And before you can have systems, you need to have sales. Before you have to have sales, you have to know who you're serving. And so that's kind of the way that I think people should approach it.
Yeah. And I think that is such a great answer and so, really great advice. I'm thinking of a few people right now that need to watch this and listen to you say that. Actually, a lot of people, not just a few. Uh, I don't know if I interrupted you. You were going into maybe a second thing, but
Yeah, so I'll say the second thing that I think is innovative about our business model is what we call our unlimited web design. So related to what I just said, right? You go through these different stages of, at the beginning you're serving, you get to figure out how you're serving. Well, you need a certain kind of website for that. Then as you start to figure out what you're going to sell, the next thing you need is actually not a fancy website. It's not SEO. Everybody asks me about SEO, and all the time I tell them you don't need SEO. The next thing you need is probably like a really good lead magnet, like a really good lead generation tool, a really good lead generation offer. Then the third thing is probably a sales funnel that converts, that actually starts to take that lead magnet and move it into cash flow, because that's the next thing you need. And then from there, you can start worrying about things like getting a great website, SEO, blogging, all those other things. And so we developed our unlimited web design platform, recognizing that that when our customers come to us, they're at any one of these different stages, and our goal is to get them to the next stage. And so the whole purpose of our unlimited web design plan is to meet you where you're at and give you the tools to get from where you're at to the next level. And we won't actually sell you the next thing until we think you're ready for it. Because I don't want somebody, who's brand new spending $1,000 a month on SEO when they don't need it. You're better off spending the $200 a month with us to make sure that we're helping you pivot your messaging quickly while you're trying to figure out who you serve. And then I will let you upgrade to the next thing when you've earned it.
I'm smiling because you were talking about SEO and telling people they don't need it at that point. And then you said lead magnet, and then I'm not sure everybody knows what that means, so I'm going to ask you to define it. But wasn't your first lead magnet an SEO analysis report?
It still is for a certain size company, but not for an average, not for a small business.
I'm trying to be flippant.
But I mean, it is something we have for bigger companies. So if you're a Playmakers, then yes, you probably should get you should probably get the analysis. If you're jerrystbiz.com, probably don't.
I'm buying that right now just in case. What's a lead magnet?
Yeah,
will you define that for people?
I will. So a lead magnet is a often digital, not exclusively, but often digital offer that you create for a target or ideal customer that you give them in exchange for their contact information. For example, I'm trying to think of some of the ones that we have out there right now. I think right now we might have like actually, I think we were putting together like what we call our growth map, which essentially is everything I was just talking about, right? The serve, sell, system, scale framework. We're putting that into like a one-page handout. So like, based on where you are in your revenue, probably you can just say, okay, this is what I need to be working on next, right? So it's a one-page handout that you can download or you can print or whatever is convenient for you, that you could look at and be like, okay, this is a helpful way for me to know what I should be focused on from a technology standpoint for my business, right? And we'll put that out there for free. But we'll ask for your email address in exchange for that information, because we think there's value. And we're not gonna ask you for money, but we are gonna ask you for another thing of value, which is the ability to reach out to you. And then we'll invite you to the next thing, which might be a webinar, and then we'll invite you to the next thing, which might be our $3.99 website, right? So it's gonna depend. But that's essentially what a lead magnet is. It's some sort of thing that you make available to try and grab somebody's email address.
And has your pricing evolved, or are you still in the same type of pricing model that you had before?
Well, it depends on when you
I know.
We're always evolving our pricing as we're kind of trying to get better at right sizing our offers. One of my goals is to make sure that that we're never unaffordable. Here's one of the things that I feel really strongly about. For a lot of small businesses, a lot of our customers have been through this, right? A lot of small and local businesses. Here's what happens. Somebody starts a new web or marketing business. They go out and they're brand new. So, they can't work with a big company like, Playmakers or Cruise Pets or Elderly Instruments or something. They have to start with a small company, right? jerrystshirts.com. And what happens is they will work with those small companies until something better comes along. And then they just start to neglect those small companies, right? They start to raise their prices and and so if you're a small business owner, one of the worst things about being a small business owner is that you're never anybody's priority, because everybody always wants to go after the bigger business. And so I feel very strongly that we want to be an advocate for that guy. And so, we will probably always have a plan that's like, $200 a month that is affordable for most small businesses that are generating any revenue. If you're pre-revenue, again, more often than not, if you're pre-revenue, I'll tell you don't spend money on someone like me or anybody else. But for any business generating any kind of revenue, we've got plans to start at $200 a month. We've got websites that, start at $700 or $800 a month. Occasionally we'll run a promotion where we'll drop that down to $400. So we've always got, pricing. We want to make sure that we're always accessible to that person who's already figured out who to serve. They're just trying to figure out how to get some legs underneath them. But then you've got much bigger projects too, where we charge a lot more.
So Katie over here saying hi to you. I don't know if you can see the comments.
Yeah, how are you? I haven't seen her forever. I haven't seen anybody in forever. So good to see you again, Katie.
So, what you're talking about there kind of goes back to what you were saying with tech inequities, right? Mm-hmm. Or technical inequities. Do you want to, would you say that's your mission? Is to solve that?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a way to say it more succinctly, but yes, that's the thing that, and Jerry, you and I might have talked about this at one point, and it's taken longer than I would have thought, but, I've built our model with the goal of making it franchisable. One of my, 10-year BHAG is that we've got a web pro in every mid-sized market in America in the next 10 years. So, one of the things that I love is that a lot of our customers, can text me, right? If they have a question, I generally, they're going to get faster responses if they go to our support queue, but there is a person that they can reach out to, somebody they can ask questions to. And I love that I can have that kind of relationship with our customers. But many people in my industry, we get so focused on like our efficiencies and webs and being able to work remotely, right? And we try, and there's a lot of efficiency that comes with being able to work remotely, but there's also something to be said for being able to be involved in your community. And I'm grateful, like I'm involved in like our DLI downtown initiative. I'm involved in a couple of nonprofits around town, and I love that I get to be involved in our community. And I think there's something to be said for that. And part of why this is my passion, Jerry, is that, when you're at your kid's little league game, right, and you're looking at the back of their baseball jersey, it doesn't say Google. It says, your hometown insurance agency is the person that's sponsoring that. And I believe very strongly that, that the quality of a community is often determined by the quality of the small businesses in that community, because the small businesses in that community are the ones that are contributing to the community financially. They're contributing with their time. They're solving the problems of people in the community. And so part of our goal for turning our model into a franchise in the coming years is so that we can partner with those local businesses and be as involved in those communities as I try to be. Not always perfectly, but yes, that's essentially our mission. I haven't figured out yet a way to turn it into 2 sentences. I will at some point.
It's an awesome mission, though. It taps into so many things that I believe in too. Just the small businesses solve the problems of their community, and when we start trying to buy our solutions from everywhere else, they're not sustainable. They don't work for us. I love the model that you're trying to do. So
you're a great example of it. I mean, all the stuff you guys are doing at the Fledge. I mean, you guys are just bringing in all these people and you're tackling all these different things, and you guys do so much. And you're like a microcosm of that. And then there's so many other companies in Lansing that do different things. Whether it's law or hair salons or insurance or wherever those things are. And I would love to see more and more of those businesses thriving.
Yeah, me too. So, I got a lot I want to talk to you about, but I really want to ask you. See, I want to tell you something. You talk more about inbound marketing than anybody ever has. You taught me, really, I always called it a pipeline. You got me calling it a funnel. Just as something as subtle as that. But you taught me a lot about the math behind that, and I really appreciate it. And sometime, if you ever get a chance to work with Jesse, everyone out there, work with them because it is a lot more than a website. It's a lot more than a website.
Well, that's kind. I appreciate that.
But we won't talk about all of that today. What we will talk about is what's something you do every damn day to push that mission forward.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say I'm a creature of habit in a lot of ways. I mean, the first 2 hours of actually probably first hour and a half of my day looks the same every day. Probably I get up, I've got like a 15-minute yoga practice that I do, and then I have 45 minutes or an hour that I dedicate typically to prayer and meditation, and then I get up and I start to look at our KPIs. How are we doing with with a couple of core metrics that I have in work in process, sales, these kinds of things. And then from there, I'm generally starting to just go through and just make sure I'm checking in with people on the team. Like, okay, how is this going? How's this going? How's this going? But very, very quickly. Actually, I like to block off the first, between 8 a.m. So I'm a fairly early riser. I'm usually up at 5:45. I like to block off the time from about 8 to 10 or 10:30 to be focused on things on the business. So like right now, for instance, we're going to be launching some webinar campaigns. And so the first couple hours of my day are me thinking about planning this webinar, right? Getting the slides together, doing all these things. What happens in a lot of cases is you spend so much time working in the business, and I've been there, but you go through it, it's part of a rite of passage, that before long, you're basically just a glorified employee, right? And if you're trying to build a business, as I am, that is intended to at some point grow beyond myself or my own capacity, you need to be disciplined about not just thinking about the immediate thing, but thinking about the next thing. And in particular, I like to think about what's the next big domino. What's the one thing right now that if I solve this problem, 10 other problems get solved. And that's really, that first 2 hours of my day is really dedicated to whatever the big domino is at that quarter or that time.
See, I told you guys he's super disciplined. We daisy chained these shows together. And yesterday on the show, we had Tony Willis. And his question that he wanted me to, we talked about you being a great guy too. The question that he wanted me to ask you was, how do you know when to sunset a project? How to say it's over, it's not working, it's done, or I've gotten everything I'm going to get out of it. Whatever you want to use as that. But when do you know to stop?
I'll tell you, man, I think most entrepreneurs have a hard time answering that question. Partially because, entrepreneurs, myself included, tend to be an optimistic and a hopeful bunch, and also tend to be pretty good at being able to see problems as opportunities, right? And so, I mean, there have been times when I've been told, hey, you should probably sunset SuperWebPros. I mean, this is something I don't think I've ever shared publicly, but a couple of years ago, I tried to grow too fast, and I didn't have all the disciplines in place, and I ended up going 6 figures easily in debt. And at one point, my accountant was like, "You should consider filing for bankruptcy." And I was like, "No, that's not going to be the solution. We're gonna figure out a way out of this problem, right?" And between my accountant and my parents and everybody else who was telling me that you should probably you've got an MBA and all these pedigrees, like, why don't you go get like a well-paying job? You can make a lot more money with a lot less stress. And they're right. But it wasn't. But in my heart of hearts, I knew it wasn't the right thing. I was like, there are too many people that I want to serve, too much opportunity that I think is out there. We can, this is just another problem to solve. And if you gave up every time there was a problem, then you're probably not going to be a very good entrepreneur. And so I'm probably terrible at answering that. Give it 10 years and then we'll see if I made the right decision. I have no idea. So here's what I do think is that if I didn't enjoy what I was doing, if I didn't believe in it, if I was just doing it for the money, let's say, I would sunset it, right? If I were to look in the mirror and be like, the only reason I'm doing this is because like I've got some ego or some sense of identity or like whatever. Like if I didn't believe in the why that I shared with you guys earlier, I wouldn't do the thing that I would do. I would say no. So I would say maybe that's probably the best barometer for sunsetting a project is that if there's no real reason from the inside out that you're doing the thing, then don't do it. Life's too short. Do something you want to do, not something you feel like you have to do.
More great advice. So you're in between the Willises. So tomorrow on the show, we have Ashley, who is Tony's wife, as you know, but maybe not everyone. And what question?
Wonderful, wonderful person. I love Ashley.
Yeah. What question would you like me to pass on to Ashley?
Yeah. So I'm Catholic, and and we just celebrated Easter last past weekend. Right before Easter is 40 days of Lent, and so during that period of time, we spent a lot of time thinking about suffering and about struggles and about sacrifice. And what I love about Good Friday to Easter Sunday cycle is that there is no resurrection without the cross. And I think about this all the time, that our greatest growth comes oftentimes in the heart of struggle. I shared this story, for instance, a couple minutes ago, about my accountant told me, "Hey, dude, you should give up." And I'm like, "No, we're gonna grow past it, right?" So my question for Ashley would be, what struggle are you most grateful for? What's the thing that you've suffered through the most that in the end you look back and I'm like, I'm a better version of me because I went through that, even though it was awful at the time.
Yeah. So I'm going to flip that on you. What's the struggle that you're most grateful for?
Man, there's so many. Maybe the one that I shared earlier, because what happens is when you are back up against the wall and you have to make some decisions, not just decisions about how to solve the immediate problem, but also decisions about who you're going to be in the face of that problem. One of the things I believe very strongly is that business problems are really just personal problems amplified, manifest in your business, right? And that in a lot of cases, at every stage in your business, who you have to be is different at each stage of your business. And one of the things that I took away from that experience of trying to grow too fast, I can be a little impetuous. I can be a little too quick to act and not, and I've always sort of hyper focused on growth or whatever, right? And it forced me to kind of take a step back and think about who do I need to be able to hit the next milestone? Where do I need to develop real disciplines? Where's my ego getting in the way? Where am I trying to project or impress when really instead of serve, right? And so I would say that struggle for me has been really character defining, and it's forced me to be a lot more disciplined in my personal life, a lot more disciplined in our business, a lot clearer about my why. And it forced me to really evaluate some deep personal questions that I think I'm a better person for.
I love what you said. Well, I love it all. I mean, I love the question. I told you that. But I love what you said. You got to be a different person at different stages in your business. And that's why sometimes you got to leave your business, right? And you got to figure out a way to get someone else in there that can, or maybe you don't leave it, but you got to step away from maybe being the CEO or the day-to-day leader.
Yeah. So. And I've said this before, like, my ego is no longer tied to my, founding or running the company. If it got to a point where I felt like the best thing for the business was for me to bring in somebody from the outside to do it, I would do it. I mean, that's I'm more interested in the service that we provide and helping the people that we help than me necessarily having some title. I don't care about that. If I cared about that, I'd go back to the corporate world.
Yeah, the corporate world's a lot easier sometimes, isn't it?
Oh, all the time. Here's the truth. Like, the truth is that there are some people who are just like, born and bred entrepreneurs. They can sell their way out of any situation. They can identify problems. They can motivate resources. I think one of the things that we forget is that your job as an entrepreneur is not product development. It's not. It's resource. It's problem identification and resource aggregation. It's, can you identify a problem that people need to get solved, and can you marshal the right resources to be able to solve that problem, which more often than not, frankly, looks like selling. And I'm not a natural salesperson. I'm still not very good at it. But there are some people who, like, that's their thing and they're great. And those people probably should just always be entrepreneurs. For the rest of us, there is something to be said for going and working in a corporate environment, learning how those things work. Big companies, I'll say this, having started a small company, having worked in big companies, they're not the same animal at all. And there's a reason why big companies get to be big. and I think there's something to be said for learning what that looks like. I still draw on that corporate experience every day to help me solve small problems here, because I know this is what it needs to look like at some point. But if I didn't know that, I'll be honest, I don't know how I would figure it out. And so, yeah, I think if you're talented, you can make a lot more money, a lot less stress working in corporate America. But, is it as much fun? I don't know. Everybody's different.
Eats at my soul. I couldn't do it for more than 10 years, but I did it. I was in big corp. What?
You're an entrepreneurial. You're an entrepreneurial guy. Like that's your cut. And a lot of people aren't. Like you can handle risk. You can handle the stress. Like you're okay with it. I'm okay with it. I'm not always great. I'm not always graceful with it. But at the end of the day, if I was the kind of person who was very nervous about failure, if I was the kind of person who, when my back is up against the wall and I'm like, shit, I'm going to overdraft. Like if that paralyzed me, I wouldn't do what I'm doing. And one of the things that I think can happen is we think that entrepreneurship is maybe the only way to accomplish some of the things that Matt want to accomplish. It's not. There are lots and lots of ways to manifest your gifts and your talents and get paid a fair wage for doing so. And I think that's noble. That's a good way to be.
Yeah. So what is happiness to you, and are you happy?
Yeah, great question. I actually don't know how to answer that question. Because I'm not even sure happiness is really a goal. I often think about like Aristotle. Aristotle used two different words to talk about happiness. One form of happiness was refers to like contentedness, right? Like, are you in a good mood? Are you feeling the feeling of happiness? Another version of happiness speaks to the quality of life. Are you fundamentally good? And he was on the fence about whether or not you could ever even answer that question when somebody had died. Like, when you look at the quality of their life, was it a fundamentally good life? I don't know that I think about happiness as much as I think about character. I think I would rather be good than happy. And I think I would rather, and so for me, and maybe the way I raise my daughter is to focus on becoming the best version of yourself, and the rest of it will take care of itself. So am I the best version of myself? No, I don't, not yet. And at some point, between now and the time I die, I hope to be closer. I don't think I'll ever attain it in this side of heaven, I suppose. But that's kind of the barometer is for me is like, am I a little bit better of a person today than I was yesterday? And that to me is a much more meaningful metric than am I happier today than I was yesterday. I don't know, yesterday I was probably in a bad mood for some reason at some point. But hopefully today I handled that mood a little bit more gracefully than I did yesterday. And that to me is real progress.
I love the answer. Love the non-answer, whatever it is, but I like it, and it's something to think about, everyone. So, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope? The fundamental goodness of people gives me hope. I was talking with my daughter about this the other day, and I realized that I haven't been doing a very good job of catechizing her and teaching her some of the precepts of the faith that I hold dear to myself. And we were going through and we're kind of starting to read some of these stories. And one of the things that I love, and I think this is, fundamentally, not just allegorically true, is the world is fundamentally good, right? People are fundamentally good. Are we flawed? Absolutely. Are we perfect? Absolutely. Do we tend to be jerks to each other? Yeah, sure. But at the end of the day, I think we all want the best for ourselves, our family, our communities. Some of us are our brokenness gets in the way. For all of us, our brokenness gets in the way at different times. But you can't measure somebody by their worst. I think we have to measure people by their best. And I think that most of us try imperfectly to be our best. And so I think what gives me hope is that I think the conviction that everybody is fundamentally good and trying their best, and that maybe if we can extend a little bit of grace to ourselves and to others, we can move that needle forward just a little bit more.
I can't believe how many people argue with me when I say that people are fundamentally good.
Yeah.
So many people want to argue that. And I'm not saying everybody, but they stick out in my mind. I can't go through life thinking people are fundamentally bad.
No.
So
Well, and even, it's an unhelpful, even if I thought it was true, it'd be unhelpful. I'd have to come up with a reframe anyways, because if that's your starting point, then it makes trust very difficult. And if you can't trust, then you can't form good relationships. If you can't form good relationships on a practical level, you can't get anything done. On a personal level, you're going to be miserable. So even if that's something you think, this is actually a good litmus test for almost anything that you believe. If it doesn't fundamentally make things better, if it's not helpful or kind or useful, you should probably reevaluate it.
right. So I hope you don't mind this, but Chaz and I went to Wu-Tang Wednesday at Saddleback today. And we were talking about the show and you coming on the show. And we had a bet. I gave him 5-1 odds if he could guess what your answer would be to this particular question. And his guess was that you would say, even though the politics are really bad and poverty still exists and things seem pretty horrible sometimes, if you look at the overall curve, we're going in the right direction. Things are getting better. You know, we live in the utopia that they dreamed of in 1400.
I mean, relative to all of human history, it's absolutely true. There's a great book that I think everybody who's curious should read called Factfulness by a guy named Hans Rosling. And across almost every single metric by which one could gauge well-being, we're at the zenith of society. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. But we live longer across the board, even in the worst parts of the world. We live longer than we've ever lived before. We're less sick than we've ever been before. We're wealthier than we've ever been before. Like, there are fewer, we're more insulated from grave problems than we've ever been before. I think that, while things aren't perfect, it's the best it's ever been. And I do get a little bit miffed at all the negative coverage. And I also recognize that that's the stuff that sells. And that clickbait is, when you're reading the news, like, if it's free, you're the inventory, you're the product, right? And so I get that idea. But the reality is that there has never been a better time to be alive.
Yeah, I just a couple months ago finished Utopia for Realist, and he talks about the same thing, but he goes back in time and looks at, today would be that utopia, but we had to create a new utopia. There always has to be a utopia on the map that we're trying to find, and I think I get to keep the dollar.
I'll let you guys work that out. I will say this. I'm firmly of the opinion that things are great. They're not perfect, but they're great. And again, this goes back to the thing I said before too, is like, if you have a mindset that's not helpful. So here's the thing, is like, if you believe things are great and can get better, then chances are you're looking for opportunities to make them better. And if you're looking for those opportunities, chances are you're going to find them. And if you find them and you have an entrepreneurial bent, you just discovered a new market segment, right? And so, that's kind of the way I choose to look at things.
I love it. So did we forget to talk about anything? You got any side projects, anything you want to promote with SuperWebPros, a shout out to anybody?
That was like 5 questions in one. I don't know that we forgot anything. In terms of things to promote, here's what I will plug. I won't plug SuperWebPros, but I will plug a fun project that my daughter and I are working on together. So she tells me that she wants to be an entrepreneur, and so around the start of the pandemic, a little bit afterwards, I took, when schools were out, I took it upon myself to start teaching her how to do some basic things. And so we created a website together. They're called Oonicorn.com, OOHNICORN.com. And it is her print on demand store that sells unicorn stuff. And so she's designed almost all the products. She's got them put together using a tool called Printful. And so I showed her how to set that up. And so she goes and she uses one of our design services to get designs made, and then uses Printful for drop shipping t-shirts, and then use another service called Spocket, which is another drop shipping tool that she uses to sell other goods. And and she's 10, right? And I'm really proud of her for this initiative in a lot of ways. But I'm also proud because it shows that, you don't have to be tech savvy. She's 10. She didn't know what a website was a year ago, right? You can learn this stuff. It's all learned skills. And, she had her first $200 day last week. I'm very proud of her for that.
Nice.
And so, it's growing slowly but surely. But if I'm going to plug anything, I'm going to plug her little burgeoning entrepreneurial shop, unicorn.com, OOHCIOR.
Will you spell it again for me?
Yeah, OOH, like ooh, OOHNICORN.com.
Okay, I got it right. And I want to give her a little plug too, because she got on the Fledge community page. She wrote me a very professional email to me. I was like, who wrote this email? Who is this person talking to me? And I just think she is fantastic. She's been over a few times. We haven't got our goal of recording yet, but we're going to get there. And I think she is amazing. So
I got lucky in the kid department.
Yeah, forget about SuperWebPros. Go to unicorn.com and buy an unicorn thing.
Yeah. You'll be helping a 10-year-old girl achieve some of her dreams.
And I am going to put SuperWebPros.com out there one more time, because I think that is a testament to your character right there. Who you want to promote, and I don't know. I just love everything you're saying, man.
I love it, man. I'm grateful that I got to spend this time with you. This is super exciting. It's fun.
We used to spend a lot more time together when the ecosystem was a little tighter and not as filled as it is now.
Well, we'll bring it back. And look, I still have in the back of my mind, I want to bring back Lansing Built at some point. It's just that, building the company as I've had to lately is kind of taking me in some other directions. It'll come back though. And what's great is now with a little bit more time and a little bit more maturity and a lot more relationships, I think the next version will be incredible. I think there's so many people, even in this community, who want to see it thrive and who want to do some great things. And I'm excited that I get to know folks like you and others who are committed to it. And, I'm very excited to see what we can do in the coming years.
Yeah, I want to help, because if you don't do it soon, someone else is going to do it.
I hope they do. I hope they do. I have no ego in this. I want to see things thrive, man. If I can help, great. If somebody else wants to take the lead, I will happily follow.
Let me think about that, because I might have an idea that we could get behind.
Let's do it, my friend.
Take us out with something.
Oh gosh, I don't know that I have anything profound to say other than the world is good, people are good. So hopefully go out and do something good today for yourself, for your community, and for somebody you don't like. And we'll see you guys later.
Super important. Just on the show a couple days ago, that guy was talking about ugly grace. Go do something nice for somebody you don't like. And we've been saying a lot lately, radical inclusion doesn't mean I like you.
No.
So.
No. And that's the kernel of love, man. Like, what good is it if you're nice to people who are nice to you? Like, that's not hard. It's hard to be good to people who you don't like, or who you disagree with. And if everybody was good to the people that they didn't like or disagree with, the world would be a very different place.
It sure would. And you hit your profound quote a long time ago in the conversation. So this is very good, Jesse. Thank you so very much for all of these great words and great wisdom and great sharing of your experience. So support superwebpros.com, support unicorn.com, and help close this digital divide. Thefledge.com, all the time. All right.
All right, guys. Hey, take care. Jerry, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We will see you later. Bye-bye.